said the Omicron variant of the coronavirus might be less dangerous than first feared. The thinking is,
hey everybody, how you doing? Good to see you today.
I'm going to be connecting the Reverend through.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
He's on.
Okay, Pastor, how are you? Welcome home.
Thank you, Santita. I'm glad to be home.
No, you're not. Stephen. Okay, I know we are on the air. We're on Facebook Live, but I mean, I don't want the Lord to strike you. In the midst of all of this, oh my gosh.
I could hear your mother's voice while I was stuck there telling me not to go back to Morocco.
Oh, you. Didn't she tell you? Did she not tell you? She said, baby, she told you. She said, get to Paris so you can get home. I thought about you. I cracked up. You know, because my mother spent so much time there and just in these other places. So you know little things that you need to do.
Yes.
So you can get home. And you know, and then also traveling with Reverend is its own, you know, he's a passport.
Yes.
Never realized how much of, you know, because you can just walk through places with him,
Yes.
but that's not the way that real life works.
Exactly.
It's not. It's just like, wait a minute. You know, the guys he rescued over in Kosovo, they said that there was a language barrier, obviously, and they were asking, they said, Jesse Jackson here. And they were like, what kind of place is this? He rescues people. No one takes him hostage ever. They were trying to tell him he had come to try and rescue. Oh, I've had some funny experiences. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. Oh, gosh. He said, we were like, what kind of place? Oh, gosh, we'll never get home. They're going to take Jesse Jackson. Oh, man. Oh, that was hilarious. Bless their hearts. But I'm glad that you're home. I'm glad that you're home. Because, you know, and it's interesting. I was doing a lot of, hey, everybody, Linda and Dave and Daryl. You know, the Omarian variant did not begin in South Africa.
Correct.
It was in Belgium.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, so barring all of the African nations first was very odd. And in fact, the president of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, said, look, this is travel apartheid, and it really is.
It really was, yes.
But, you know, the African continent is only 6% vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if those numbers are going to go up anytime soon.
If you're having
swelling
or redness,
you know, because it doesn't, you know, it's interesting. The way we first heard about this virus, we thought that it was going to take the African continent and India out. It did not do that.
Oh, right. It did not at all.
It did not do that. And so their view is very, very different, everybody. So it's something we need to find out what they're doing. Because the Delta variant actually comes from India. I just, you know, and this is not the scapegoat anyone. This is just to know what we're looking at.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, let us change the world today. One person, one action at a time. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today, Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. Wow. 80 years ago today, World War II. At least that is when we entered into a conflict. My grandfathers were veterans of that war. So many of you have your forebears who are also veterans of that war. Let us think of everyone who was touched by that war. You know, the Russians lost more than 50 million people. We don't often talk about that. So they have seen war, and it's a lot. But wow, the Second World War. We were bombed at Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1940. 41. God bless everyone. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today on the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820 in Chicago. Yes, we did take over the airways for Air America, and so we're holding up that banner. And of course, AM 950 Radio, Chad Larson and all my family up there in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Got to give a special shout out to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. She is taking no prisoners, and I love it. I love it, love it. Call me today or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. Want to hear your voices today. Want to hear your voices. Want to hear your thoughts today about the Jussie Smollett case. Wow, we're getting more bombshells. Coming out of that case. We're going to be talking about that at 6:30, and then we're going to talk about the Stacey Abrams race, which is really heating up. Senator Perdue has entered the race. He's trying to take out Governor Kemp. He said, over his dead body, will she be the governor? Oh, this is going to be exciting. And then what about the Crumbleys? Should they be the parents of Ethan Crumbley, Jennifer and James Crumbley? Should they be held responsible in part for what their son did? And will this set a new precedent? What do you think? Call me, text me, 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And of course, Dr. Deborah Furholden will be talking with us about COVID-19 and just a lot of questions. You know, the first in the nation city to mandate that private businesses have vaccinated employees, New York City. There's a lot going on, everybody. On the Santita Jackson Show, we'll talk about it as much as we can. Everybody, please like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show page. Hannah, everybody get on over there. Jan and Robert, please get on over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And of course, you all are on Facebook, Santita Jackson and Friends page. Let's get to some of these headlines. Chicago will have a high of 26 degrees. It will be cloudy. It feels cool now, everybody. Maybe we will get that first snow. Up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, they're going to have snow showers today. 21 degrees will be your high. The Dow closed up, gangbusters, 646 points. The NASDAQ closed up 139 points. The S&P 500 closed up 53 points. In the NFL, well, last night, the Patriots were triumphant over the Bills, 14-10. And in the NBA, well, the Timberwolves fell to Atlanta. Atlanta 121, the Timberwolves 110, but the Bulls, though they're on fire right now. The Bulls 109, the Nuggets 97. And in the NHL tonight, the Wild will be facing off against the Oilers, and the Rangers will be facing off against Chicago. The CDC is moving more and more countries to its highest risk travel level because of the Omicron coronavirus concerns and rising COVID-19 cases around the world. Several European countries, including France and Portugal, are the latest to be added to the CDC's Level 4 list. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin will hold an urgent call today as the Western world grows increasingly alarmed at signs Russia is planning to invade the Ukraine. The Capitol riot. Mark Short, the former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, is cooperating with the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. This is a significant development, according to CNN, that will give investigators insight from one of the highest-ranking Trump officials. The headline reads, "We have suffered for 66 years. The U.S. has ended its latest Emmett Till murder investigation without charges. The U.S. Department is ending its latest investigation into the killing of Emmett Till, the black teenager from Chicago who was brutally abducted, tortured, and killed in 1955, sparking the modern civil rights movement, everybody. Till's family said it was disappointed by the news that there will be no accountability for the infamous lynching. And this is in light of Carolyn Bryant, the woman who Emmett Till allegedly offended, at whom he allegedly whistled, after she said in 2017 to an historian that it didn't quite happen that way, that he did not actually offend her, he did not whistle at her. But DOJ officials say that they cannot prove that, even after several conversations with her. How about that, everybody? The Dems have marked the anniversary of the 13th Amendment, the famous anti-slavery amendments, 13, 14, and 15, giving black people, freeing us from slavery, giving us our citizenship, and giving us our voting rights. Well, they want to close the slavery loophole because there is a loophole in the 13th Amendment that says that once you're arrested and go into prison, you become a slave. U.S. congressmen want to close the slavery loophole. What do you think about that? We'll have to talk about that some more. China is seeking its first military base on Africa's Atlantic coast, according to U.S. intelligence. While we have been making mischief, guess what? China have been making friends on the African continent. Think about that. Pastor Stephen Thurston, so glad to have you back. Been following you on Instagram. You have been in Morocco as they have been shutting down travel all around the world, as my mama told you. Because it's easier to travel through Europe, in and out of Europe, than it is, sadly, in the rest of the world.
And that's what I had to do. I had to sneak my way to Europe to get back to the States.
Did you really?
I made it. I did. 2-hour drive to Casablanca to Madrid to London. And then I was able to get back home.
Well, I'm glad you're back.
Yeah. I'm glad to be back, too. I'm glad to be back with you here.
Oh, boy. Well, you know what? Then you do have some good news to deliver. Welcome home.
Thank you. Listen, we're in the holiday season.
Yes.
And as we've entered this holiday season, there are many around us who seem to be living out this perfect Hallmark Christmas movie as their lives. But I've discovered that there are also some people that are mired in grief and sadness. They have the perspective that you can forget about being jolly because the holidays seem to be more of a burden than a blessing. But for those who feel that way, in spite of your true feelings, you're also expected seemingly to smile at the office holiday party and find the perfect Secret Santa gift, rack up bills and go into debt for holiday shopping, and then head home to your relatives to sit around the holiday table and act festive. And whether you've experienced a loss, that is weighing on you, or you've simply not feeling all that holiday festive, the holiday blues are real. It's a common thing that's experienced by many people. I ran across a study by the American Psychological Association that states that 44% of women and 31% of men actually report increased stress during the holidays due to issues such as lack of time and money and pressure to give or to get gifts. And I saw another study by the National Alliance on Mental Illness. This is interesting, Santita. It found that 64% of people who have been diagnosed with a mental illness say that the holiday season between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day makes their condition somewhat or a lot worse. The holiday blues are often caused by high expectations, loneliness, and stress. Interesting. And I share this data today to inform someone who's listening that you're not the only one that's feeling the way that you feel during this season. And in spite of what many are presenting around us, many are suffering with the holiday blues. But here's the good news. You don't have to attend every holiday party or engage in competitions to buy the biggest or the best gifts. You don't have to go in debt that you'll be paying off in 2040. You don't have to cook a big spread and have everybody over for Christmas or Hanukkah or any of the other various holidays that we celebrate during this season. The good news is that it's okay to be choosy about the holiday madness that you decide to participate in. And at the same time, as the holiday blues are encroaching upon you, it can be tempting to isolate yourself when the best thing for some of us to do is to actually get out and have a little fun. Look, if it's something that you think you might enjoy, go for it. But having the option to leave early or not go at all can sometimes shift the situation from feeling like an option to a choice, and that will remove and relieve some of the stress. And listen, never forget that doing something good for other people is always a great way to focus on something other than the sadness that you're experiencing on the inside. Studies actually show that being generous is linked to being happier. These holiday blues that some of us are experiencing, they're common. And getting help for sadness or grief is nothing that any of us need to be ashamed of. If your feelings are interfering with your ability to function, if you're having trouble concentrating or performing at work, or your feelings are affecting your well-being and your relationships, it really might be time to consult with a mental health professional or physician to get some help. Allow them to help determine the best options that are out there for you. These holidays don't have to be harmful to our health or to our healing process if we handle them the right way.
I appreciate that because, we still we stigmatize not only mental illness, but just getting down, feeling a little down, feeling bad. And we all try to put on, and you talk about this. I love your Instagram posts because they're really provocative. They're thought provoking. We really put on a face, like the face I have on my right now with the lipstick and and the eyeshadow and all this. Seriously, we put on a face, and it's not true. I mean, it's just not true. And this is a time of year when we see suicide spike. There's a lot that happens, and we can become mired in regrets. Instead, my father says, we drown in our cursings without celebrating our blessings. And and I thank you for that because because I want to celebrate my blessings and just and everything else that comes with it. Because in life, everything comes with everything. How about that? It comes with kids. Okay. I love you, Pastor. How can we get your book, Mirror Moments?
You can head over to StephenJThurston.com. That's Stephen with the PH. StephenJThurston.com.
And when will you be preaching again at Salem?
I think I'm off for the balance of the year. I think I'm going to take a little break, and I'll be back at the top of the year.
All right. I love it. But I love these sermons. I love it. Preaching machine from one of the great preaching lineages in the history of our country, the Thurston family. I love you, Pastor Thurston. Sending you much love. Teaching pastor of the Salem Baptist Church, House of Hope, everybody. And please get that book, Mirror Moments. It'll be a blessing in your life. It's been a blessing in mine. We've got Dr. Deborah Furr Holden. We're so glad that God is restoring your health. She shared with us just a few days ago that she had tested COVID-19 positive, wasn't feeling great, but she wasn't feeling awful. And so we just thank God for the restoration of your health. I have a question for you because you really are, you have a real thing about not just equality, but equity. We can't assume that everybody starts at the same place. And I came across this story that I thought was really, really interesting. All around the world, you can get free COVID tests. I have a lot of friends who live many other places or who are not American. And they are mystified by the fact that we do not have free COVID tests. So the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, was asked yesterday, and she rejected the idea of having the federal government mail free COVID tests in households all around the country. What do you make of that? I mean, because Americans paid for the research and the development of these vaccines. We paid for them. That's why they shouldn't cost anything because we already paid for them. What about the test? Because the test can be cost prohibitive. Dr. Deb, we do need to know our status.
Yeah, it's a great point. And here's what's even worse. Because of the way our market and our free market and our free economy work, the very test that you get when you go to a testing site, when you get a rapid test, it's 9 times out of 10 the exact same test that you can go and buy in a Rite Aid or a Walmart. And I won't throw brands out, but I'll say in my county, those tests are one and the same. How do I know? Because I know the test that was provided to me, and I asked. And then I look at what tests are available, the tests that you can buy for yourself. At Rite Aid, that test, 2 tests cost $50. It's a 2-pack. It's $50. At Walmart, those same 2 exact tests cost $15.
What?
And the same exact kit cost $15. I asked my friend in a lab who runs a lab, how much does this cost? Like, what's inside the box, roughly?
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost? He said about $1.84.
That's criminal, Dr. Deb. That's criminal. That's criminal. I mean, because wait a minute, because you have people need to get tested. And increasingly, the testing is on you. People's margins are tight. That's not right.
Yes.
You know that's not right. I mean, she really pushed back against that. She said, no, people are going to have to pay for these tests. I said, whoa, all over the world, people don't pay for the tests. In fact, you just go get tested. That's just part of the health protocols now, all around the world, I have a very active show this morning, but I have a lot of questions for you. And, because we're going to be moving on to Jussie Smollett because, you and Dr. Knighton stayed on yesterday. He testified yesterday. So we got to dig into that. And, but I have a question for you, another question. What about New York City has announced they're the first in the nation, big city, to mandate the vaccine for private companies. What do you think the impact will be of that?
I think we're going to see a lot more of that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see a lot more of that. People are going to start. This is going to be like one of these things that becomes like a great divide. Where you stand on this issue, where you stand on that issue, where you stand on the vaccine and vaccine mandates, I think is going to end up being a great divide. And the reality of it is we now are at the point where we've got 70%, I think it's 71%. I checked yesterday or the day before. 71% of all Americans have received at least one dose of vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So we clearly have moved, and more than 60% have received, are fully vaccinated. So now the scales have tipped, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a majority situation. This isn't even as hair splitting as like the presidential elections where, literally like not even presidential elections, many of the elections that happened last time, even in my own county, it came down to when we were really splitting hairs. In places the size of my county, you've got people who are winning by several dozen or several hundred votes, right? So it's really a fine line. Well, the scales are starting to tip now a bit, and this is going to be one of those things that divides us. And it's going to be the people who are, in favor of the vaccine versus everybody else, I think. And so I won't be surprised to see more of this coming.
Well,
and I won't be surprised. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask you, is it even as simple as that? Because a lot of people I've spoken to so many people who've gotten the vaccines and they said they still didn't feel good about it, but they had to do it. And I'm just wondering where all of this is going. Because I've also talked to other people who said, no, I'm not going to get any boost. I'm just not going to do it because I'm seeing that when does it stop? I'm really looking for some answers because I see people, we're still debating that, and there's pushback on people getting the free test. People need the free test because, like you said, it costs about $1 or so to develop it, to bring them to market, and then you're asking people to pay $50. There's a place where I go to get my tests. If you don't have insurance, it is $200+, Dr. Deb. Do you hear me? $200. $200. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I don't know. So it's just a lot. What's the word that you want to leave us with today?
Well, in the face of all of this, the one thing I will say is there is a lot of community testing out here available for people. A lot of your listeners are in Chicago. Chicago has a lot of free community testing. I'm in Michigan. Michigan has a lot of free community testing. When I made the choice myself, I chose to go somewhere. I went to a major chain pharmacy. And funny enough, they said, we're out for today. We don't have any more, but come back at 10 a.m. and we'll have more tests. And really what it was is they were out of the test kits.
Okay.
And I said, okay. So I just the next morning went to a community testing site. And I had the option of putting my insurance information in, and I did not. I was like, why should my health insurance pay for this? I'm not paying for this. So, I just encourage people, even though there's no federal mandate for free testing, most communities, with all of the resources that have rolled out and the ARPA dollars, et cetera, do have free testing readily available for people in community.
How can you find them?
Literally Google COVID testing and put in the name of your county. And 99% of the county health department will have the free community testing and free community vaccination sites listed on their website. Like, that's just the real basic stuff.
Okay.
So I wouldn't get, too worried about it, because there is a lot available. And you can get rapid testing, and you can get that PCR testing, which is more sensitive but takes a few days to come back because it's got to go out to a lab. I tell people, don't spend your money on testing when it's available in the community. I do think it's a good idea for most people to have a rapid test at home. And I don't promote big box stores and all that, but I just encourage you, price compare. And like I said, in some places it's $50, and in other places the same 2 kits are $15. And just order you one and have it at home. Why? Because if you have it at home and you have some known exposure and you want to know, then you have what you need right in your hands to be able to answer that question. And that kind of knowledge really is power, and I think people should have that. It should be free, but I don't want to shoulda all over the conversation.
Absolutely.
What should be, when what we got to learn to do is be with what is.
Don't want to shoulda all over the You almost said something else. Almost got me put off the radio just now, but that's okay.
I know the rules.
You got the rules. Oh my gosh. I love Dr. Deborah for holding. And you know what? So many people are so glad that your health is just as robust, and we just thank God. And how's Jordan doing, very quickly before we go to break?
He's doing great too. We're both on the mend. Yeah, we're looking forward to going on Friday and getting a negative COVID test.
We love you and Jordan and baby India, our family here on the Santita Jackson Show. Let's talk about the Jussie Smollett case. You can hang out, Dr. Deb, because I know you want to know the latest and the greatest. Back in just a minute on the Santita Jackson Show. Dr. Deb, you're going to hang out with us so you can find out what happened in the trial yesterday?
Yeah, I hope the same woman that was here yesterday
She is
coming back, because I surely
She is the reporter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're just trying to find out what happened and what is going on, because there's a lot. Well, there's a whole lot to this case. That's the thing. There's just a whole lot to it. And let me do this. Just give me one moment. Looking for. I got this. And I've got all these stacks of papers here.
Attorney Hoffler's on the line.
Okay. Attorney Hoffler, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you, Santita?
I'm doing great. I've got Dr. Deb, who's holding on to find out what is going on.
Lord have mercy. Good morning, Dr. Deb. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
I got my booster shot yesterday.
Yes.
How you feeling?
That's good news.
I'm feeling okay. My arm is sore, but I'm feeling okay.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. I'm just in prayer, just trying to do everything to protect myself. But I must admit, I've got a lot of questions, but moving forward.
Yeah. You know what? It's just with everybody. Oh, Miss Stanley, great. And I've got callers too. That's right. So I'm going to bring them on very quickly, and then I'm going to go right to this. Are they still there?
Yeah, they're all still there.
Okay. All right. All right, Shelly, how you doing?
CPT 820 is proud to.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Of
Santita.
course.
How are
Well, you
you?
know I got to keep up with this because I'm, where else are we going to get this credible information? And of course, we are on Facebook Live and on YouTube presently. Thank you for circulating everything. But we're just trying to get as much truth out as we can because it's, when I'm listening to you, you take me back because I remember Tina Chen, who used to work for President Obama, she made a phone call to Kemp Fox, remember, to try and help get these charges just, dropped because it just seemed like they were overzealous. Do you remember that? And then they tried to serve her with papers. She's a lawyer. And she would not take the subpoena. It's just, there's just a lot. There's just a lot of zealousness here, but I wasn't, it was just fascinating to hear what was said in court yesterday. Do you think it was how was his testimony received? Did you get a sense of that?
Yeah, it seemed to be received very well. Like even the people in the media seemed to be shifting. Sometimes he wasn't like cracking jokes or anything, but some of the things that he said were
40 seconds.
funny as he was talking about his life, or before his family, his career, leading up to going on Empire, and the media would sort of chuckle at his jokes and stuff. So I thought that was definitely a good sign. Also, he just was very
20 seconds
composed the entire time, and
very open,
very honest, very consistent, very
open, open. So stay right there. Stay right there. We're coming right to it. I'm gonna grab one or two calls, and then I'm gonna come right to you.
Okay.
WCPT 20, where facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. December 7th, 2021, 80 years ago today, Pearl Harbor. We must always remember as we discuss the Jussie Smollett case. He actually testified yesterday. So what do you think about that? Do you think it was a good thing? We're going to be talking with Shelley Stanley, this brilliant investigative journalist who's been giving us information to which we have not had access. Of course, attorney C.K. Hoffler helping us to understand what we're seeing in the courtroom. But you know what? Before I get to them, let me go to Brian from Joliet. Brian from Joliet, how you doing? Brian, you still there?
I don't think he's there anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, let me go to Howard. Howard, how you doing?
Hello?
Hi, Howard. How are you?
I'm fine. This is a couple quick things.
Now, Howard, I cannot understand you.
Okay, let me take you on speakerphone.
Okay, please do.
Oh, that better?
That's better.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to talk about, thank you for taking my call, first of all. And I understand it's kind of cold out there. We might have some rain out here, which suggests we always just been in California. This is kind of a desert anyway. First of all, on the Wooden House case, and then compare with this other shooting in the Detroit area, I think they said the president in the Oxford high school case because they charged the parents. They should be charged because they contributed to a delinquency of minors. In that Woodhouse case, that's what they should have tried the mother too, because she definitely contributed to a delinquency of minors. This we had that law here in California. You can't be doing that. You can't be having kids doing things like that. So that should have been charged. And another thing I like to bring out is this thing in Russia, that might blow up into another World War II thing, and I hope that we don't, because America's tired of war. We've been involved in war since Vietnam, and then 2 years before their career.
Sure.
Last 56 years, we've been involved in some kind of conflict or some kind of war-like situation. I don't know, America's tired of war. We just got out of Afghanistan this past summer, and now we're going to go somewhere else and fight somebody else.
Well, we have to. Well, Howard, we're going to have to let our legislators know that we're tired of it. I mean, because the fact is, I think Russia does have a point. Tom Hartman made this point yesterday. Uh, we don't want military forces gathering at our borders. And Russians don't want they don't want a military gathering at their borders. And I think, if we could be mutually respectful, it would be a whole different world. And I'm hoping that we will grow up in our politics and grow up in how we relate to each other and understand each other, so that we can avoid all this war. Because war, to me, is just a sign of our spiritual immaturity. Howard, I need to move on, but I want to send you much love. I want you to stick around and listen to our discussion about the Jussie Smollett case, because that is something that has got people talking all over the country, indeed all over the world. I'm sending you much love. Thank you for tuning in from Los Angeles.
I just had one more creep. Do you see? Hello?
Yes, honey, speak quickly.
Oh, I just said, do you sing?
Yes, I do. I do. Yes, I do.
Oh, God. I couldn't hear you in concert then.
Well, you know what? And I'm going to start putting my songs out. In fact, I'm working on a theme for the show. And you know what? You can actually Google me, and I'll start using some of the songs that I've recorded. But I sang the national anthem at the Clinton inauguration in 1997. I was honored to do that.
Yeah.
So you can actually see me there. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I'll try to check it out and see what you're working with.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sweetie. Thank you so much, everybody. Howard from Los Angeles. We're sending him much love. Jussie Smollett on trial for allegedly staging this hate crime. Well, we heard from him yesterday. And so we want to know what was heard, what he said in the courtroom, how was it received, what did Shelley Stanley, what did you perceive? And of course, attorney C.K. Hoffler, to see how it might have been received by the judge and the jury. Okay, what happened yesterday, Shelley?
Okay, so yes, first I actually want to talk about a different development that was huge and that did get coverage in the media, but it was sort of then quickly covered up, drowned out by Jussie going on the stand. And that is that Anthony Moore from Chicago, he was the guard at the Sheraton Hotel, who saw, just after the attack, he saw two masked men run by him, and or two men run by him, and he was seen on film by CPD because the men, ran away from Jussie, ran down the street by this guard. So the guard went and interviewed Anthony, and he told CPD within 3 days of the attack that the guy that he saw was 6 feet tall, white, and wearing a black face mask, which is the exact same description that Jussie gave to the police, and that the second man blocked his own face. So in court yesterday, he got up on the stand and he said the same thing. He said that the man who ran by him was wearing a black face mask and was white. And then he proceeded to say that he was pressured and threatened by the special prosecutor's office, Dan Webb's special prosecutor's office, to change his story and to say that the man was not white, but was in fact black. And they asked him, who did the person who pressured you in this room? And he said, yes, he is. And they asked him to, Nenye asked him to point to that person. And Anthony Moore pointed to Sean Weber of the special prosecutor's office as being the person who threatened and pressured him to change his story. And so that was a huge moment in court. I mean, that was beyond courageous act of Anthony Moore. I mean, it was a great act of courage by him to go into court and to point out that abuse of, prosecutorial abuse from such powerful forces in open court. So I just wanted to celebrate first his amazing act of courage.
That's a huge deal. I mean, Shelley, that's a huge deal. I didn't hear about that yesterday.
You didn't?
No.
It was funny. It was in the media for about an hour, and then Jussie got on stand, and so it got kind of, crowded out. But that, I feel like, needs to come. It's going to come back up, of course, but I think that should be a national discussion because that's such a huge act of courage on his part and a huge revelation of what what has been going on behind the scenes.
Well, just very quickly before you
I just
continue.
wanted to celebrate him first.
Well, no, that's a big deal. But very quickly before you continue, very quickly, because I want her to continue and tell and can give us the reporting about what happened yesterday. CK, what do you make of that?
Well, I think that's big news. Firstly, let me just say I did not hear that.
Okay.
And I've been surfing the media. I did not hear that at all. I think that's a major development. What we have to remember is no matter how we all feel, including the press, relative to what's going on in the Jussie Smollett case, there's an audience of 12 that matters in this case. That audience, those jurors, and making an impression on those jurors. I'd be curious to hear how the jurors reacted to Jussie Smollett testifying. But that information from a security guard, again, they're going to try to impeach his credibility and tear him to shreds and make him seem like he's a first-class liar. But whether we like it or not, people who are in security, people who are in law enforcement do get a pass. So here you have somebody who is in security, who does protect people, saying, this is what I saw, I'm sure of it, this is what it was. And then the prosecutor tried to get me to change my story, which is, it reeks of corruption. It reeks of the same thing that we saw in the initial stages after Ahmaud Arbery was murdered, where you had a prosecutor, the district attorney, who failed to investigate, who failed to press charges, and who told the likely defendants in the case to get rid of evidence, which was go home and wash up blood, and there was no investigation at the scene because of her intervention with law enforcement. So it's the same thing. I think that's big. I think that's huge. I hope that it's played out that way. I hope that that's a very important witness who could really, in my impression, make or break the case depending on his credibility and how he's questioned by defense counsel.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up first, Shelley. So please continue. What else happened?
Okay. Yeah. So I'll just say he did leave the stand without much problem. I think they were just totally shocked to be exposed in court. So he went on his way pretty easily. But yeah. So what also happened, is that Jussie did get on the stand, and he, as people probably saw in the media, which was quite salacious, he described various things about his relationship with Abel Osundario, and he was very open, and
they had a sexual relationship, and right?
Right.
Okay.
And at one point, Nenye asked him, do you feel ashamed of, having used drugs and this and that? And Jussie said on the stand, of course I do. My mom's sitting right here. The jury is here. Of course I do. This, that it had basically caused him to really reflect on his life and, the past. And so yeah, it was he was just excellent on the stand with Nenye. Nenye was asking him, shouting at him at times, like, did you commit a hoax? Was this a hoax? Did you do this for a hoax? And Jussie just kept saying, no, and everything in Jussie's story was totally credible. It made sense why he was with the Osundario brothers at that time. I mean, at least Abel was his trainer. He had just hired him as a nutrition and workout trainer. There's many texts confirming that. And Ola, the old, shorter, was not really in the picture at all. He had just kind of randomly was hanging around at times. And so Jussie explained that relationship as well. And the jury did definitely seem, to warm up to him. And also the media actually was warming up to him, just sort of chuckling at different things that Jussie would say about his life before Empire. So, I thought that was very positive. And then with Webb, Dan Webb got up and started cross-examining him. And that conversation to me was so profound, because it's basically this very deep conversation that they're having on the stand. And so, Dan Webb asked him, why didn't you want to call the police? Because Jussie didn't actually want to call the police. His friend called the police, just, even though Jussie told him not to. And so Dan said, well, why didn't you want to call the police? And Jesse said, quote, I'm a black man in America, and I do not trust the police, unfortunately. And then he also said that he's a well-known figure and he's an openly gay man, and that he wants to play like superhero figures and boxers and things like this. And he said, it doesn't look good to be beaten up as a gay man because people will automatically kind of go into this homophobic, frenzy, as unfortunately people did in this case. And he said, well, I can't say exactly what he said because there's some words in there I can't say on the radio. But, he just said that basically people will very easily emasculate gay men. And so that's another reason he didn't even want to say this to anyone, because he didn't want to be emasculated. And we do know what happened in the public, unfortunately, as a result. But, it was just profound. Like at one point, Dan Webb was trying to make Jesse seem like a bad person for not wanting to give the police his phone. And even though he gave them phone records, all his phone records, but he didn't want to give him physically the phone. He didn't want to give them the medical release, and he didn't want to give the DNA. So Dan Webb it was like this conversation about privacy and rights, I felt like. Mm-hmm. And then, Dan Webb was saying some strange statements at one point that I just found so bizarre in his questioning of Jesse. Like he said, there was a video where Jesse still had the rope around his neck. It just had happened. He was walking to the building and walking up the stairs. And Dan Webb kept saying things like, do you see the rope around your neck? Or do you see that noose around your neck? And he asked him if he had tampered with the rope, quote, to make it look like a more serious lynching. And I know that within the context of this case, maybe that makes sense. But in the context of American history, in the context of America, to be asking a black man, do you see that noose around your neck, was just for me like very profound. And it was like this I can't really describe it, but it was like this very profound conversation that was going on. And, Jesse really was very honest with Dan Webb and just very calm, and, he did so well. So, in court. So that's what I can say. I don't know if you have any questions specifically about it.
Well, I do. Well, CK, do you have a question?
I have just a clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Did he say that to make it look like a more serious lynching? He actually said more serious lynching?
So exactly. That's what was shocking to me. Like, I don't know what's serious or not, but.
Right. Words count. It's not that for me, it's not, as a black woman, it's not that he's asking a black man about a lynching. It's that he is recognizing by his words a more serious lynching, that indeed there was a lynching, and all Jesse was trying to do was to make it look more serious. That is, I have to tell you, words count so much, every single word in a trial. Those words will come back to bite him. And I certainly hope that defense counsel in their closing make say something about that, the significance of that. Because I think what you want to do, even when you have, in a case like this, a predominantly white jury, you want to bring out a few things, just drop it in there for people's reflection. And that's one of the things you drop in for people's reflection. And again, I go back to a credible witness who was not annihilated on cross-examination as a security guard, who identifies someone in the prosecutor's office who tried to have him change his story. That's another moment that is very, very, very significant. So I hated to interrupt, but that was just...
No, it's not. It's not an interruption. This is a conversation because, look, you as the lawyer on the panel, you would have some questions. You would see some things that I, as a layperson, would not see. But I tell you, I mean, one of the things that Shelley Stanley's brilliant investigative journalism has made me do is go back and contextualize this, attorney C.K. Hoffler and Ms. Stanley. And one of the things that kind of jumped out at me were these brothers. Jesse gets a letter. The hottest show in the country at that time was Empire. And he gets a threatening letter. He doesn't want to, he says, let's just, let's let sleeping dogs lie. I'm going to be okay. Do you want security? No, I don't want it. His production team offered it. He said no. because I'm not going to walk around with a lot of security. Plus, I want to live my life. And quite frankly, Shelley, CK, I understand that. I really, really do. That having been said, the brothers, one in particular, started pressuring him to become his security guard. I thought that was interesting, Shelley. You know, no, you need security.
Yes, I did not know that myself. I thought that was quite interesting. He said that right after, like the brother had sort of, this is Abel, who's the taller brother. He had sort of joked about it in the past. Oh, you should let me be your security and things like that over time. But then after Jesse got this hate letter, Abel became more serious and sort of trying to almost pressure him. But, of course, Empire as a studio had gotten Jesse's security. So with Blue Star Security, actually, here in Chicago, which was the security that they got him. And so he said, of course, he didn't go with Abel because he had many other options. And Abel's not a security guard and not trained for that.
But it was interesting to me that they kept pushing. That he really wanted to be a security guard, CK. That's just,
That's really interesting. Let me just ask, did Abel admit to a sexual relationship with Jesse?
No. He denied it on the stand, and he also denied giving Jesse drugs in the past, even though, there's text messages that show that they were, sort of Jesse was going to buy some drugs through like Vimo or PayPal or something like that. And even TMZ, I saw a video from TMZ who questioned the brothers' credibility after seeing that the brothers lied on stand about the drugs. So they also, seems lied on stand about this relationship, this sexual relationship.
It's going to boil down to who the jurors believe. Do they believe Jesse Smollett or do they believe the brothers? And that's going to be the credibility issue. Who do they believe? Right. And it sounds like they're going to believe Jesse, even if they have some misgivings.
Right. I mean, even, on the stand, Ola kept, when he was being cross-examined by Jesse's team, he just kept saying, I don't recall, to almost, many of the questions. Like, he just had no answer whatsoever, and he was sort of flippant about it. So he did not come off as a good witness at all. And he was very, sorry, I'm missing the word, but hostile towards Tamara, Jesse's attorney. He came off as very hostile to her. And I wanted to just bring her up very quickly as well, because yesterday the court started about an hour late. The trial started about an hour late because the prosecutor's office filed contempt charges against her yesterday. Really? Because she spoke to the media, and they said that she made inflammatory comments to the media, specifically, and they pointed out specifically the comment where she said that she viewed what happened to her when Judge Lynn, as she said, lunged at her in court when she asked for a mistrial as part of a pattern of behavior towards Black female attorneys throughout the country. That quote was inflammatory, and so they filed contempt charges against her. The judge has reserved judgment, but it's hanging over her head. So it's, some people viewed that as like people that I spoke to in court, like Bella Boz was there yesterday. Luckily, she was able to get in, but I heard people talking about it as though it was, this kind of overhanging threat, towards her, that she needs to behave or do whatever, they want during the next few days.
Would that shape how she questions, if she questions Jesse, Attorney C.K. Hoffler? No. Would that modify her behavior at all?
No.
Okay.
No, because what she needs to do is she needs to do what she's been doing. If she felt as a lawyer that she was stepping over the line, she needs to stop stepping over the line. But what she needs to continue to do is be a zealous advocate for her client, be rigorous in her cross-examinations when appropriate, which I think she's probably done when the prosecutor put on its case, and do her job. Do what she has to do. We face, as people of color and as a Black woman, you face hostile judges, from time to time. This is nothing new in life. So you have to stay the course. You have to remain focused and not be sidetracked. Just think of the position that the judge is going to be in. All eyes are on him. This contempt motion relates to him and what he allegedly did. So of course he's taking it under he's going to reserve ruling. And the worst usually that happens with contempt is you get a fine, and you might even have to go to jail for, a day or something like that. The judge would probably be not be inclined to send her to jail or during the trial, because that would be something that he probably would not be able to recover from. She apparently is lead counsel. Jesse has a right to counsel of his choice. And so it would be problematic. Of course, he's going to take it under reservation. I bet it probably won't go anywhere meaningful, but she should not consider it something that's being held over her head. She has to, no matter what, whether held in contempt or not, she's got to do what she needs to do, frame her questions the right way, just as she would have to do if there weren't any contempt. So in my impression, no change of behavior. She just needs to keep on staying the course, which I imagine she did before, and framing her and her demeanor in the courtroom, her posture in the courtroom, and all the rest.
1 minute, and the last minute belongs to you, Shelley. Are you going to be back in court today? Jesse returns to the stand today?
I will be. Yeah, I will be. I just want to say, that I hope that people really look again at this Jussie Smollett case. There was a huge, a bunch of statements by the Chicago Police Department, which we know is not known to be trustworthy, about Jesse, slandering his character, unprecedented, talking about an ongoing investigation in unprecedented ways, including press conferences and going on a media, tour, basically, Eddie Johnson was doing. So there was a lot of red flags from the beginning, and now Jesse's finally able to show evidence that supports what he said all along and continues to say, which is that he was attacked in a hate crime. There are other witnesses that saw white men leaving the scene, and he has never changed his story. So I hope that people will just continue to be open to that and to know that people are innocent until proven guilty. And that's a right we all have that protects all of us from being, abused and incited against by forces that might want to harm us. So we all need to protect that right to be considered innocent until proven guilty.
And everybody, please, no, that's a whole lot. And please adhere to that, everybody. Because when folks want to railroad you, they do. And look at what happened. We now see that one of the prosecutors was trying to railroad Jesse. That's just one. Let's talk about Stacey Abrams at the top of the hour. What is going to happen in Georgia? And then at the bottom of the hour, we are going to be talking about what? Should the Crumbleys, Ethan Crumbly's parents, should they be prosecuted? And should this set a precedent for parental accountability? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. You all are great. And Shelley, I'm telling you, your revelation was something that a lot of people, you tried to find it, you couldn't find it.
Wow. Yeah, that's so unfortunate. I looked right after. I mean, it was, mid-morning, so I'm sure people weren't looking at the news. But like Fox News, it was their main headline for about 30 minutes, on the case. But then, they just shifted and started talking about Jesse. But yeah, I mean, I think Anthony Moore, I hope that someday he has a street named after him or something, because that act of courage was like extraordinary. I don't know that I've heard of many people who have done that, in open court.
Well, you know what? It's ironic, given what happened with the Emmett Till case yesterday. In fact, Emmett Till's uncle did that in the court in Mississippi. And they literally had to put him in a car. Oh, yes. They literally had to put this man in the car who looked like he was about 100 years old. He looked like he was Methuselah's baby brother. They had to bundle him in a car and get him out the state. They had to get him out the state.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they walked him into the courtroom and he identified Carolyn Bryant's husband and Mr. Milam. Oh, they did that. He did that. So when you said that, I said, wow, as we still have no justice in the Emmett Till murder, as Carolyn Bryant said, it didn't quite happen the way we said it happened, and then she ran away. And the Department of Justice says, well, we can't prove that she said that she lied. She said it.
Yeah.
We got to talk about that
Yeah,
at least at some point tomorrow, CK, because that is.
Okay. I would like to. I just have one more question. Again, thank you so much, Shelley, for all that you're doing. My goodness. And I follow this. I'm going back and looking and saying how I missed that. Was this security guard white or black?
He was black. Yep, he's black. And if you there's a page on Instagram. I don't know if you have Instagram, but it's Coalition for Jesse, FOR. So Coalition FOR Jesse, and that has a lot of updates from this perspective of innocent until proven guilty, and supporting just exposing the police misconduct and things like that. So that has updates as well. But he's a black man, maybe in his 30s or 40s, who was working at the Sheraton Hotel here in Chicago, and he was seen on film, with the guys running by him on film. So, what a tremendous of courage on his part.
Oh, absolutely, because he is vulnerable, and he knows it. But that's what I'm saying. There is a difference between sweet heat and street heat. And there's just something about this that has not set well with a lot of folks.
Right.
Well, and
it was nice because we were actually kicked out of the courtroom at that time when he spoke. There was no community members in the room. There was only the media, the lawyers, and Jesse's family. And so, there were a lot of complaints made about the fact that there's no community. People from Chicago were there and saying, we want to see this, you need to have disclosure. You need to be transparent. And so, but we were all sitting in the hall at that point, and, Anthony came out afterwards, and Bella Boz was out there, and, so we were all able to celebrate him in the hallway, which was good. I think,
well,
just
notion, but this notion of a judge cherry picking, this really does not set well with me. Cherry picking who can be in the courtroom for what witnesses. That's another issue. Has there been anything filed on behalf of community leaders, some of them the press? Has anything been filed on their behalf? Has that been objected?
Sure. There was a woman yesterday, a lawyer there, who was making many calls throughout Cook County Court building to the chief judge and things like that. And so, it was after Anthony Moore's testimony that we were allowed to watch the case again.
See, that's why it's so problematic.
First they let us sit in the doorway, and then they brought us to an overflow room, so we were able to view what was happening.
To her point, that's why this is so dangerous. That that the judge is cherry picking. We don't even see the behavior of the judge. We don't see his body language. We don't see his facial expressions. None of that. That's what's so dangerous about this. That is an element of the danger. And the corporate media could have blown up this man's testimony, Shelley, and you and I both know that. And you know that too, Attorney Hoffler. And they've chosen not to do it. They want to talk about, Jussie and his, and he was very open and honest. Who would want to disclose their personal life in front of their mama? Nobody wants to do that.
I have David Daly on the line.
Nobody wants to do that. And he's a grown man.
I don't want to talk about Jussie and Looney Tunes. Oh. The headline was about Looney Tunes because evidently he made a reference to that. But and to be candid with you, I was like, Looney Tunes, what? What does this mean? So even that reference, the way that was rolled out, to me, it sent a different signal. But the bottom line is that jury of 12, and how they're receiving that information. They're not sequestered. Is that right?
No, they're not sequestered, but he does tell them every day, don't look at the news, don't Google anything. So that means what they're going to do is they're going to look at the news and Google everything.
15 seconds.
Ladies,
talk to them about what they should and shouldn't do.
Ladies, I've got to get on to this next topic. I'm sending my love to you. Shelley, I hope you can come back tomorrow morning because we want an update.
15 seconds.
Okay. That sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you, MCK. Appreciate it.
David Daly's also on.
Oh, David, how you doing, sweetie? CK, are you going to stay? Or I know you're going to be
Good.
with us at the bottom of the hour. We're talking about Atlanta.
5 seconds.
Yes.
I have to leave at in.
We can change
Okay.
the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. 80 years ago today, Pearl Harbor, the attack at Pearl Harbor that pulled the United States into the World War II. Everybody sending much love to all of the veterans and to their families. And I'm part of that group. And what do they call it? The greatest generation. Well, so many people were called to serve. We got presidents out of it, and on and on and on. And so we are sending our love and prayers to everyone all over the world who were part of that World War II, the tragedy of World War II, and ultimately the triumph. God bless everybody. God bless us all. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. My love to all. I want to hear your voices. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. I want to know what your thoughts are. You can text me at that number as well. I want to know what your thoughts are because, hey, we've got a lot going on. We've been talking about the Jussie Smollett case. What do you think about what you've been hearing about the Jussie Smollett case? What do you think about the Crumbly case? And what do you think about Stacey Abrams? Talk about the greatest revenge matchup in history. Oh, everybody, this is going to be fantastic. But before we get to that with David Daley from Fair Vote, our dear beloved friend, the New York Times bestselling author of Rat Effed and Unrigged. Let's get to some of these headlines, everybody. Chicago, it's cold today, 26 degrees. It will be cloudy. The Minneapolis, St. Paul, 21 degrees. Snow showers. The Dow closed up gangbusters, up 646 points. The NASDAQ closed up 139 points. The S&P 500 closed up 53 points. In the NFL last night, the Patriots were triumphant over the Bills, 14-10. In the NBA, the Timberwolves fell to Atlanta. Atlanta 121, the Timberwolves 110, but the Bulls are on a roll, everybody. The Bulls 109, the Nuggets 97. And in the NHL, we will get some action tonight. The Wild will be facing off against the Oilers, and the Rangers will be facing off against Chicago. The CDC is moving more and more countries to its highest risk travel tier among Omicron coronavirus concerns and rising cases around the world. Several European countries, France, Portugal, they're the latest to be added to the CDC's level 4 list. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin will hold an urgent call today as the Western world grows increasingly alarmed at signs that Russia is planning to invade the Ukraine. Mark Short, the former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence, is cooperating with the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. This is a significant development, and we will see how all of this pans out. We suffer for 66 years, said the family of Emmett Till. Still no justice. The Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Justice, has ended its murder investigation without charges, even though Carolyn Bryant, the woman at whom Emmett Till was alleged to have whistled, did say to an historian in 2017 that the story didn't quite happen that way. He did not do that. So what do you think is going to happen? We're going to talk about that more tomorrow with legal Q&A with CK. Democrats are marking the anniversary of the 13th Amendment with calls to close the slavery loophole. And the 13th Amendment, the amendment that freed African Americans from slavery, there is a little exception. Prison labor is slave labor. And so congressional Democrats on Monday are seeking on this 156th anniversary of the ratification of the 13th Amendment to close that loophole. What do you think about that? Jussie Smollett testified in court yesterday. And as we just heard from Shelley Stanley, a gentleman for the defense identified a member of the prosecutorial team who tried to get him to change his statement so that he would railroad Jussie Smollett. Unbelievable, everybody. You know what? I have a new sponsor, Team Hochberg. And if you need to clean up your credit, if you need to establish credit, if you need to finance your home, if you need to refinance your home, Team Hochberg is for you. 855-56-DAVID. 855-56-DAVID, 56david.com. I want you to give them a chance. They can become your trusted lender, everybody. And why do we need them to be your trusted lender? Because we've lost 300,000 African Americans in population in Chicago, because many people cannot get their homes refinanced. They cannot afford to get their home financed. They don't have credit to get their homes. They need to establish credit. He can help you to start on the path to home ownership. All of that. We have all of these homes in the Black and brown communities that need to be rehabbed, but you need to get credit so you can get the money so that you can do all of that. Team Hochberg can help you to do that. So I want you to call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com. They have helped thousands of radio listeners all over the country get credit, clean up credit, come out of bankruptcy, and all of that so that you can buy your home, so that you can get a home that you can afford, everybody. So I want you to go and reach out to David Hochberg and Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com, and let's get on the road to home ownership. We haven't had this gentleman in a while. I have missed you, David Daly, New York Times bestselling author of Rat F. Please don't say it. I don't want to get put off the radio. Unrigged, that came out just at the beginning of the pandemic. But if you want to understand what we have been living through, and my father often says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And the Republicans have been planning to overtake the government, whether they were in the minority or not. And they know they're in the minority, and they did not care. So you got to talk to me. It seems like we're about to get the greatest revenge match. I feel like, the World Wrestling Federation will have nothing on Stacey Abrams and Senator Perdue or Governor Kemp. What is going on in Georgia?
Boy, Georgia really is going to be the center of the political universe next year, right? We've got a number of races, and it's going to be all year round. You're going to have a couple of really fascinating primaries in May, and it's not just this marquee matchup between Governor Kemp and former Senator David Perdue. Kemp, the current incumbent governor, but he has lost the support of Donald Trump, once his close ally. Trump is now thrown in behind David Perdue, who, of course, lost his seat in the U.S. Senate in one of those runoffs last January. But you've also got a really important race at the Secretary of State level on the Republican side, because the incumbent, Brad Raffensperger, refused Trump's entreaties to find the additional 12,000 votes that the president then needed to take Georgia back in November of 2020. He, too, has earned the president's eternal enmity, and there is a primary challenge there, and a man named Jody Heiss. So really, before we even get to Stacey Abrams versus whoever comes out on the other side of that gubernatorial primary, you're going to have two really important tests of how powerful Donald Trump remains as a force within the Republican Party. I mean, let's keep in mind, Kemp is not some squishy liberal, right? I mean, squish is not. Brian Kemp is not Adam Kinzinger in Illinois, right? He isn't some moderate who occasionally votes with the Democrats. He has pushed through aggressive gun rights bills, aggressive pro-life bills, aggressive anti-voting bills. He's been aggressively anti-immigration. What these primaries are really all about is whether or not you can exist in the Republican Party in Georgia without full-throated support of Donald Trump's lies about election fraud.
We're talking with David Daly, New York Times bestselling author of Rat Eft and Unrigged. You need to get these two books if you want to know what's been happening. Well, the plan. These people have planned to overtake these state houses and gerrymander the majority of Americans out of power, everybody. Over my dead body, David Perdue has said, let me be very clear, over my dead body will we ever give Stacey Abrams control of our elections again. I'm running for governor to make sure Stacey Abrams is never, emphasis is, governor of Georgia. Make no mistake, Abrams will smile, lie, and cheat to transform Georgia into her radical version of a state that would look more like California or New York. Whew, that's a whole lot. And why did David Perdue go after Governor Kemp and not go after the seat that he just lost?
Well, because Donald Trump has already endorsed somebody in that race. He's already endorsed a former football player named Herschel Walker, who played at the University of Georgia, won the Heisman Trophy back in the early 80s, and then went on to play for Donald Trump, right? When Donald Trump had a team in the USFL back in the early 80s that went, I believe, bankrupt like everything else that Trump touches.
Yeah.
But so there is already a Trump-endorsed MAGA candidate in the U.S. Senate race. If Perdue wants to take on that mantle and get back in office, he's got no choice but to sign up with Trump and take on Kemp. This is going to be an expensive race. It's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be very difficult for Republicans to come back together from in the end. I mean, if Kemp loses this race, his supporters are going to have to swallow really hard and go over to Perdue's side. And if Perdue loses, what does Trump do?
Well, explain, because President Trump, he said that he'd rather see Stacey Abrams in than Governor Kemp.
Which is fascinating, right? I mean, so you have to manages to hold Perdue off, which is entirely possible. He could. What role does Trump play in that election? But then if Trump's preferred candidates lose in Georgia, what does that say about Donald Trump's ability to winners in Republican primaries? What does that say about Trump's ability to lead the top of the ticket in 2024 in a state like Georgia that he lost narrowly in November of 2020? And would this be an indication that Trump would not be the best candidate in 2024? Would it embolden other Republicans to stand up and perhaps take him on in Republican primaries? So Trump has a lot on the line here as well. His control of the party in many ways is very much at risk. If he can't deliver winners in Georgia, it's going to be very difficult for him to make the case that he is the ultimate standard bearer.
Everybody call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Who you got? Do you think Stacey Abrams is going to be able to become governor of Georgia? I mean, remember, she never conceded. Why didn't she concede, David?
Well, because she didn't think she lost fair and square. There were so many different irregularities in that race,
like
and
purging 1 million voters.
Not to say that she was claiming that there was, voter fraud. What Stacey Abrams did in Georgia is very different from what Donald Trump has been doing over the course of the last 13 months. But Georgia had this really rare. I mean, Brian Kemp was Secretary of State when he was running in 2018. So he was in charge of administering the election that he was running in. And what Kemp did throughout 2018 was continuously purge Georgia's voting rolls. Millions of voters, disproportionately black voters, were purged from the rolls ahead of this election at some point, even in the fall, even in September, they were up to this trick. And the number of voters purged vastly exceeded the 40,000 plus votes that Stacey Abrams lost that race by. So, I mean, she has not pretended that she won the race or that she ought to be called governor of Georgia. She did not file, all kinds of, 60 frivolous lawsuits. But I think she felt as if to concede that race would be to give credibility to the way in which Brian Kemp administered it.
Everybody, I want to know what you think. I've got Attorney C.K. Hoffler, your dear friend, who, of course, is in Atlanta, immediate past president of the National Bar Association and chair of Rainbow Push, someone who's been very active in these campaigns. What are you seeing? Are people excited about Stacey Abrams? What do they think is going to happen with Raphael Warnock? I mean, what do you see?
Well, Santita, Atlanta, Georgia is going to be the epicenter of, I think as David said, of all that's happening in politics. I'm just paraphrasing, but all that could happen in messy politics too. I think people are very excited that Stacey is going to run. I think they feel that it's her time. She's been very methodical since her last defeat and making sure that she crossed every T, dot every I, making sure that people were aware of this. She's fair fight has become a dominant force, not just in Georgia politics, but nationally. And I think people are excited and believe that she can win. And Stacey has a lot of crossover appeal. What I mean by crossover, she crosses over into many communities with her presence, her political positions, and her dominance, quite frankly. And she has enhanced her brand significantly since she ran before. So I think people are excited. Is it going to be messy and a bloodbath? Absolutely. Because you've got 4 people running, a lot of people who have really hate and animus against Stacey. But that hate and animus, I believe she's going to turn into votes. And people are just excited. I think they feel it's time. There's a lot that's happened in Georgia. We have voter suppression at all-time high. It's going to be very interesting to see the role of voter suppression during these elections when you have 2 people who are ostensibly engaged in running the elections, who are in one way or another, who are or who touch on the elections, who are going to be running. So I think it's going to be a hot mess, but I think at the end of the day, the state is ready, and Stacey Abrams has a great chance of winning. And you asked about Raphael Warnock. Well, Herschel Walker, if that's the candidate, we have no concerns. Absolutely not. Herschel Walker may have been an exceptional football player. There are many things that he may have been, and we must give people credit where credit is due. And he probably has strong intellectual capacity on some levels.
Right.
But
He was known to be a very
politicians in
strong
Georgia-
student. He was known to be a very strong student, but he's
And we don't take that away from him. We must give everybody credit where credit is due. But politics in Georgia, that's a whole different ballgame. So I think that Raphael Warnock has already begun. He's been campaigning, actually, I would submit, since he won, which is what you have to do if you're a U.S. Senator. And I think Raphael Warnock is going to have a fight, but I think he will prevail in that fight. And then you will have something that's absolutely historic. You will have a Spelman graduate and a Morehouse graduate who knew each other in college, who would be sitting in the ostensibly 2 most powerful seats in the state of Georgia, So there are a lot of reasons to fight for that if we reverse engineer, because legitimately they are the most qualified and the best candidates to lead this state. They're not asking for any handouts. They're not asking for any of that.
But we never do.
The best and strongest.
We never do. All we ask for is a level playing field. That's all. Nobody's ever asked for that. We ask for, other people ask for handouts. Look, the Republicans ask for handouts. That's why they gerrymander. I'm sorry.
Well, can make an argument with either one of them, no matter how you slice it. They might make other arguments, but not that argument. So Georgia is, but Santita, I have to underscore, hot mess. It's going to be a hot mess.
Hashtag, hot mess. Hot Mess Georgia. Dave, the last 2 minutes belong to you. What are we going to see? Are we going to see a voter registration drive? Are we going to see money poured into the state? I think Herschel Walker, even though he's a great football player and he has his own personal challenges, he might become a symbol because he was always well liked, I'll say, not beloved, but well liked by the white community because he was unwilling to take a stand in support of Black people and our issues. What do you see?
Oh, I think you will see all of that, right? I mean, what Stacey Abrams and her organizations have done in Georgia since she lost in 2018 is focus national dollars, and she has proven that she can fundraise at the highest level, but she's also proven that she can build local organizations that register voters and then turn them out. The two victories in January in the runoffs for Senators Warnock and Ossoff are evidence of the political strength that her organization has built on the ground. So I imagine you will certainly see all of that come to bear on this election for the office that she has really wanted to, I believe, most of all. Remember that there were a lot of efforts to pull her into these U.S. Senate races, and she said no. She was waiting for this chance to run again for governor. So we are going to see, all of the attention of the political world focused on these primaries in May and then on these very big races in November. But at the same time, there is redistricting going on in Georgia, and Georgia has become as close on the congressional level as it has at the presidential and the U.S. Senate level, and yet the maps that Republicans have drawn themselves for both the state house as well as the state legislature hand them huge advantages for the next decade. And as we are looking and talking about 2022 and 2024, I think it's really important to keep in mind that what Republicans have been doing in state houses around the country over the course of the last 5 or 6 weeks in drawing the maps that will be the playing field for our politics for the next decade until 2031 has really been to lock in their control in states that are changing, in states that are close and competitive, and they have done this at the expense of the political power of communities of color in Georgia, in Florida, in North Carolina, in Texas, in Arizona, in Arkansas, and Alabama. We're seeing it nationwide, and this is ongoing. We are in a battle for the essence of our democracy right now, and much of this decay is happening right before our eyes, and we have to battle it.
Well, David Perdue said, "Over my dead body will Stacey Abrams be the next governor." Let's hope it doesn't go that far. I certainly do want Stacey to win, and it looks like she won in 2018. So let's just keep poking. We're gonna be holy. Coming up, let's talk about the Crumblies. Should they be prosecuted? And should this be a new standard for parents whose children commit these deadly acts? Back in just a moment on the Santita Jackson Show. Dave,
fun.
You are the best.
Santita, when you say things like "over my dead body," when people say things like that, they just got to be careful because, nothing is promised in this world. We're living in a pandemic. We're living in multiple pandemics. Mm-hmm. So much can happen. People are of a certain age. Yes. I don't know.
Well, that's why I said,
I'm not talking about gang violence or anything.
I'd be cool with that. I mean, is that a promise?
Well, also, you know what? Also, but in a gun culture, what he's doing is menacing, and people should not, and we shouldn't play with him, and he shouldn't play with us.
First of all, we get that. We get that because he was one of the people advertising with a gun when he was running.
That's right, but you have to say that
he was running.
See, you have to say that because you're stepping into an ugly political environment, and sensitive to that because I grew up in it. And I just remember going down the hallway. My father was staying at the Howard Inn. That was like our home base in DC.
Yep. DC.
And I remember coming down, getting off the elevator, and there were all these big white guys on the hallway. And they were looking at me. They wanted to know who I was. They had come in from these unions all over the country. And they were his security in 1987 before the Secret Service came on. And as one guy said to me, he said, "Ma'am, I don't want to frighten you, but a lot of people," he said, "I'm a trucker. I listen to what people are saying." He said, "So this is my vacation time, and I'm going to protect your father." Oh, God bless him. And these people were up and they were everywhere. And so when he says over my dead body, that's a threat. And I think we need to be very, very clear on that. That is a threat. And he needs to be called out on that because it's wicked.
Well, the one thing we know, Santita, I would put money on that Stacey perceives it as a threat, and I would put more money on that she's going to call him out on it. So, that's the one thing about Stacey Abrams. She doesn't miss a beat.
She doesn't. And you know what we should do? We should call out also.
Absolutely.
We're the ones who have to say it to you. Hey, I saw you, heard what you said. Oh no, I heard what you said. Now, doctor, as the Negroes say, I heard what you said. I heard what you said, and I want you to know I'm not playing with you either, Mr. Perdue.
Right. But she will. It's going to be a hot mess, and I don't mean that in any pejorative way. I just mean it the way it's going to be because of the forces that are aligned on each side, the forces that are aligned to try to stop Stacey from.
I have Joy McKee on the line.
Okay.
And they're going to have a formidable fight because I think she has laid the groundwork to win, not to come. She's not a second place type person.
30 seconds.
Well, and it's also it's power. Wait, hold on. Do we have oh goodness, Chaparral?
Yeah, Chaparral and Dwight are both on.
Okay, great. Okay, stand by. We're coming up. We do all this gabbing before we miss my breaks coming in. Okay, Chaparral, roll up your window.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. What about the Crumblies, everybody? What about the Crumblies? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Receiving Columbine, the two teenagers who murdered people at the Columbine High School. Well, they came from stable, affluent, white homes, right? I mean, they two-parent homes. Okay, this is good families, right? And then we've got Kyle Rittenhouse. He has a mama who drove him to Kenosha. We have Travis McMichael, who was accompanied by his father and egged on to kill Ahmaud Arbery. And now you've got the Crumblies. Laugh out loud, haha. Next, don't get caught, son. Okay. And they bought their son a gun, and on and on and on. And now the prosecutor in Michigan said, enough. We are going to prosecute them because they were in this. They shouldn't have bought their son a gun. They should have told us that he was trouble. They should have done all these things. They didn't do it, and they're as responsible as he is. So we're going to charge them. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. And let's talk about what this prosecutor has done, and should parents be charged in cases like these, when the parents truly have a hand in getting their children guns and on and on and on. Should they be prosecuted, and has this Michigan prosecutor set a new standard? Before we go to C.K. Hoffler and Dwight McKee to talk about it, and maybe David, if you're still there, it's Vittles time. Got to get this food together for the holidays, everybody. And Roosevelt, please don't call Chaparral on Christmas Eve. Celebrations by us. Honey, you need to call her now. in that order now. What's going on, Chapearl?
Good morning, Santita. Thanks so much for having us on again. Yes, we are still taking Christmas orders until December
David left, by the way.
We are definitely doing your rib roast as well as also your smothered chicken, smothered beef, as well as also your greens, green beans, mac and cheese, as well as your masticholi, Cajun pasta, salmon, as well as also our famous sweets, our banana pudding, our peach cobbler, our caramel cakes, German chocolate cakes, as well as also our Christmas cookie platter. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546. That's 708-526-4546. You can also reach out to us on celebrationsbyus.org and Celebrations by Us on Facebook. So don't hesitate to give us a call. Friday the 17th is our last day to take our orders, and that's 708-526-4546. Thank you, Santita.
Get those greens, everybody, and the banana pudding, and the caramel cake, and the turkey, and the ham. Well, we've had it all. I mean, and I got the pork chops. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. So happy right now. I'm so happy. Thank you, Chapearl. Hey, everybody. What about the crumblies? What about the crumblies? What do you think? What do you think should happen with the crumblies? What do you think? Do you think that the Michigan prosecutor was right to prosecute them as well? She said, no. They are responsible. They must be held accountable. And indeed, the question has been, were they trying to flee? Now, Oxford is about 40 minutes from Detroit. And Detroit is where you cross the bridge to go to Windsor, Ontario, to go to Canada. That's what you do. Everybody, I mean, it's a border town, like Buffalo's a border town, like Seattle is a border town. That's the reality. Okay, so what do you think about that? What do you think? What you know thus far, as we hear more and more people who know this family, they say that the parents knew that their son was troubled. More and more people are saying a lot that is revelatory, and that's very painful to hear. That this was a child in trouble, and this child decided to kill people because he was in trouble and troubled. Not crazy, but troubled. Not mentally ill. That's not been determined. He is angry and troubled and caused trouble and killed some people who will not be sitting at home with their families for Christmas this year or any other year. Wow, wow, wow. So, Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Dwight McKee, talk to me. I don't know if Dave is still there, but if he is, I want to include him in the conversation. But
Dave left.
Did he drop?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have you, CK, and we have you, Dwight McKee.
Okay.
Has this Michigan prosecutor, has she set a new standard? I mean, what does she have grounds to charge these parents?
Santita, she has not set a new standard. There has been, for a very long time, parents have, in some jurisdictions, have had the ability to be charged for the acts of their children, of minors, depending upon what they've done. You know, and by the way, adults too, you know, we used to hear in some states where if people came to your house and they had adult beverages and they got really drunk, just like if they went to an establishment, and you continued to serve them alcohol, you let them get in their car, didn't take their keys, didn't arrange for Uber, didn't arrange for a taxi, get in their car and drive home, they get in an accident, hit and kill someone, then you, as the person whose home they left, in some jurisdictions could be held liable. That's third party. So third party liability in the form of parents is not a new concept. It's just rarely charged. And so the question of, is she setting a new precedent? I think she is in Michigan in the sense that she is using what has always been available to her and other prosecutors throughout the state of Michigan and other states. And this is the case, because you got to have the right case. This is the case to do it on, because the parents' conduct was almost as egregious as their child. There were so many opportunities to turn this around. And so you've got 4 people who were murdered as a result, and many other injured, not to mention the horrific emotional drain and ravage that those who are in that school have suffered and will continue to suffer. So the parents should have been charged. It's sad. Yes, it is sad. But it's also sad when 4 children are killed, are murdered when it could have been prevented. So we have to brace ourselves. If we're going to be in this country, if we're going to embrace a gun culture, if we're going to embrace our children being armed, if we're going to embrace giving our children tools of using arms for whatever they feel they want to use them for, like Kyle Rittenhouse, then we must brace ourselves, and prosecutors must step up to the plate as those who protect the citizens. That's what prosecutors are supposed to do from crime: protect them and hold people accountable, and bring these types of charges.
Dwight McKee, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think she's right on that. It's when you make weapons a rite of passage in this country, which they are in many of these rural areas for these young people, it is almost like part of them being bar mitzvah, is that when you get to be 12 or 13 or 14, part of what your parents do is not just buy you a weapon, but they integrate you into that culture, which is the real danger, is because when you get a kid a weapon at 13, what you're also kind of saying to him is that once you have this weapon, it gives you the right to impose your will. And you at 15 to 16 becomes an extension of the status quo of the state, and your job is to protect the community. And so you have all of the power of a grown person with none of the intellectual capacity to process what you're dealing with. And so you say to your child, yes, you have a gun. Yes, you can kill people. But what you're also saying to him is, yes, you also have the right to impose your will and defend the community. And now you can do what grown people do. And so, yes, in many ways, they are responsible. I also agree with the good lawyer in that it is not new. I mean, when you look at even the John Brown situation, John Brown not only was a revolutionary who fought for the abolitionists, he brought his sons into the battle, and his sons were part of the trial, and all of them were condemned as one family for having fought against the revolution. So there's always been some accountability for a family who has been involved in violence or state-sanctioned violence. It's just generally it's the ones that have been held accountable has been the ones on the left or the abolitionist side, very rarely the ones on the state or the right side of the issue. They almost have never held accountable for their behavior.
Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-WCPT. What do you make of this? I mean, are you surprised to see these parents held accountable? I mean, should Kyle Rittenhouse's mother been held accountable? No one mentions that. Is anyone looking at Travis McMichael's father, Gregory, and asking, what kind of values did you impart to your son? Talk to me, everybody, 773-763-9278. Because to me, CK, just before I go to the callers, I'm looking at the values. I mean, just, wow. I mean, just killing. CK, I remember when I was in grammar school, Dwight, there was a young boy who came in, and I think his parents had just immigrated from a European country. I believe it was Turkey. And he was having a very, very hard time. He didn't want to stay in the class, and his mother would have to stay all day because he would cry and flail about. And you could see that he was very, very disturbed, very disturbed. Not as in mentally ill, but he just didn't want to be there, and he was acting out. But our class steered clear of him because he was it seemed that he was prone to violence. But I tell you what really threw us was one day he reached up in a tree and he crushed a bird to death. We were done with him and he was out the school. Now, this was a long time ago. But it was just our value system then was what you don't kill another being. You just don't do that. You don't do that, CK. That's just not right. Let me, CK, you just don't do that.
You don't. And Santita, I want to go on record just to remind you, you did raise the issue. What about Kyle Rittenhouse's mother? You kept on raising that issue. Is anyone wondering about his mother? And very few people were talking about that. But indeed, I think Kyle Rittenhouse's mother should have been held accountable. But if Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't held accountable, she's not going to be held accountable. And we cannot be surprised that there is a Kyle Rittenhouse if his mother was aware that he had the assault weapon, drove him, and had some role in it because he was 17. So we can't be surprised when the parents do take these steps. So, and in terms of the example that you used for the Turkish child, it reminds me of these two Angolan students that I brought over whose parents, and they had only lived in civil war because at that time, their entire lives, Angola had been in the civil war. And they went to a school, they lived in a family in D.C., and they went to one of the public schools that had metal detectors, and this was about 20 years ago. And I was horrified. I felt some kind of way taking these children, their parents had entrusted them to me to find them a good place to go to school, and they had to go through metal detectors. And I was really, really bent out of shape about this. And they turned to me and they said, Miss CK, don't worry. Don't worry. We've lived amongst guns and violence and landmines our whole life. We can handle metal detectors.
Wow.
And they never deviated from the rules. Never had a problem. Now, here are kids that have grown up in a violent society because of civil war. So I think that, not all children, but it does depend on what you're being taught, how you're being trained, how you're raised. And in some families, they raise people differently. But in the Crumley case, we can't be surprised because the parents had a hand in creating the moral fabric of this child. So, yes, they should be held accountable. And it's very sad that you have an entire family that's going to be sitting in jail. But how about those families who don't have their loved ones?
Well, the family that slays together stays together. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jail is where they all ought to be. Maria, what's on your mind today?
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. And good morning to everybody that's listening and to our excellent panelists. When I heard that the parents were charged, I thought, finally. Because I remember as a little kid, if you played hooky, the truant officer would come directly to the house and ask the parent, why aren't the kids in school? Mm-hmm. Even then, I realized parents have authority over us. They have to monitor us. They have to make sure we're on the straight and narrow. My mother used to say, once a tree goes crooked, it's difficult to straighten it out. Mm-hmm. And I've often thought back how my mother would, what would I say? She's a strict Puerto Rican, okay? Mm-hmm. She booked no opposition. You did what you said. This is the law. You follow the rules, and you don't go either way. Now, these parents, the ones that have just been charged, they fled, okay? They just fled because they knew they were in the wrong. They knew they were in trouble. So why would they run, okay? And they were responsible for this child. They were responsible and were derelict in their positions as parents. Every child is a blessing, but not every child is blessed to be in the best home. And unfortunately, this child is, he's obviously disturbed. I'm not sure if it's emotional, mental, or whatever. He didn't get the support he needed. And these parents failed him. And they bear a responsibility for the losses that these other parents have because their child killed 4 young people who will no longer share a seat at the table. So, yes, they bear responsibility. And in this particular case, as CK mentioned, all the facts are there. They made it clear that this child should have not been caught. He should have been smart about it. They give him a Christmas present in a form of a gun. Oh, and mother and son gay? I mean, seriously? As Dwight said, this child did not have the mental or even the emotional capacity to understand what he was holding in his hand. He was troubled and he acted out. And when you mentioned Santita, I'm sorry, I go.
No, that's fine.
Santita, about the bird being crushed by that kid, that is a sure sign that this child is troubled.
Oh, yeah.
And who knows what other signs were present in this child's case. So, yes, these parents should be charged. And I hope that this might propel this country to come up with the common sense laws regarding this, or at the very least, let the parents be aware. You be careful what you do with your child putting a gun in their hands.
But, you know, I think more than the laws are going to have to change. I mean, because the laws are there, Maria. The culture's got to change. We've got a culture of violence, whether you have a gun or not. And that's why I think the focus on the guns, I think that's a little too broad. At the core of this is violence. We're verbally violent. We do not promote peace, and we're paying for it. Dr. King said that the bombs we drop overseas will explode at home, and that's what we're seeing. Everything we do is geared toward war. And I'm someone who loves the troops. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I certainly don't want to send a troop into war so that my son, daughter, brother, mother, father, mama might not come back. Are you kidding me? No. We have to go another way. Let me go to Chris from Wheaton. Chris, what's on your mind, sweetie?
Hello, Santita.
Hey.
Good discussion as always. I appreciate the insight. I just wanted to call real quick. I know you're coming up on the end of the show.
Yes.
But you know, I've been working in schools for a long time now. I'm coming up on 2 decades, and something that I've screamed from the hilltops since forever, that until we have registration of firearms, meaning that public entities like schools are aware of which children have firearms in their homes, we will not stop these types of situations from happening. And I understand the constitutional implications of that, but this kid was clearly in crisis. And I promise you, and I've seen many schools in action, I've worked with many disturbed children over the years, I can assure you that schools in America are giving their absolute heart to these kids and doing the best they can. But the parents, there's a lot of kids in schools right now that should not be in school, that need to be in therapeutic environments and what have you. But I would like to underscore the point you made, Ms. Santita, which is that, yes, there is a culture of violence in America, but even beyond that, I would go one step further and say that, and this is going to sound maybe a little out there to some, but I don't think it's that much of a surprise, is that certain parts of white American culture literally think of guns as part of their identity. And these are weirdos. These are like creepy, weirdo, dirty, dusty, musty people.
No, I wouldn't make them.
You know?
Well, no, Chris, I don't want to do that. I think that they are a product of a culture, and a culture that will fail them ultimately because it's violent. We don't need to, let's not call them dirty, crusty, all of that. I know you don't mean that, not from your heart. They just have a culture that has failed.
Pictures, but yeah, you're right.
It's failed.
I'll put it like this though. I would be remiss if I said that the gun isn't like a totem and a symbol and this weird cultural flashpoint. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's absolutely appropriate to point out that Kyle Rittenhouse, they gave this child a semi-auto assault weapon.
Who does that?
This crazy, disturbed child. I mean, this is madness. So I guess, last thing I'll say is that I pray to God that these parents get prosecuted, because this, if they don't, all it does is encourage every other disturbed, bizarro parent in America who thinks guns are going to make their kids happy to not get them. Like we have a gun epidemic in this country, and it's killing us for sure.
Absolutely.
So I apologize for calling those people monkey and dust. Get it?
No. I know you didn't. I know that doesn't come. It doesn't come from your heart. I know that. But you know what? Brian has been holding since the beginning of the show. We're going to get some closing thoughts from you and CK on the other side when we're off the air. But Brian wanted to give a tribute to our World War II veterans. Brian, how are you today?
Fine, thank you, Shantina. I'll go as quickly as I can. I shorten things up because I have little time. If I read fast, forgive me. First of all, happy holidays to you and your parents, and I wish you all the best of health and happiness.
Oh.
And I admire the Reverend Jesse Jackson very much. And
thank you.
I want to say today, 80 years ago, attack on Pearl Harbor. All U.S. citizens today should try to study something about World War II, and all of our soldiers and women, Rosie the Riveters, and I want to say that I recommend that had we not won, these fascist dictators would have killed all U.S. citizens, and I recommend reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. And also, to conclude, if I may, I read a book called, on another subject, Bloods. I heard about it on the Studs Terkel program, 87 or 88, and it's about the black experience of black soldiers in the Vietnam War.
You know, I want to thank you for that, because, you know, the last time I saw my granddaddy, Charlie Henry, the last time I saw him alive was in August of 1978. I'll never forget this. And he said something, Dwight, you knew him. CK, I wish you had known him. He was a wonderful man, and I bear his name. And what struck me about that conversation was my father was on his way out of Greenville. He was about to leave. And Granddaddy had us standing in the room, and he was talking about his experience as a soldier in the Second World War. He talked about having to get behind the Nazis when they got to Washington on the train. And he talked about black soldiers being sent into the Jewish death camps. They were sent into the Jewish death camps to rescue the survivors of the Holocaust. And they were sent in because, A, when these survivors saw them, they would know that they were not Nazis because they were black. But also they were sent in because there were landmines all over the camps. And so a lot of our soldiers, black soldiers, died trying to get into the camps because there were landmines everywhere. So, you know, let's think about that, because this World War II changed everything. It brought women into the workplace, full stop. It brought black people into the civil rights movement, full stop. It changed America in so many vital ways. And 80 years ago today, Pearl Harbor. Think about that, everybody. But also think about the fact that Mother's Day and Veterans Day and all of these holidays were really instituted so that we would have war no more. Think about that as we look at Ukraine, as we look all over the world. No more war. All I'm saying, thank you, John Lennon, is give peace a chance. God bless you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show, where we will have legal Q&A with CK. See you tomorrow. Dwight, you wanted to say something before we go? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say it's not just giving them the guns for Christmas. It's also coming along with the guns as G.I. Joe and Cowboys and Indians. And it's a transmission of value that suggests that the way to power and to righteousness is the barrel of a gun. And so you grow up with that mindset. So it's not hard for you to go from the fantasy of the games to the reality of really shooting somebody if you got a real gun there. And so, I mean, we don't have any games called the Prodigal Son game. We don't have any sons called Good Commanders. We don't have games that promote peace and love and giving. Most of our games are really built around guns and violence. And so we have to kind of reassess the whole value of the culture, values of the culture, in order, I think, for us to make a significant impact. I think we need to hold the parents accountable, but we have to also hold the values of the culture accountable because it's a violent culture.
And Dwight, ultimately, that's it. I mean, whether you have a gun or not, it's a violent culture. We're verbally violent. I'm in, this space, talk radio, verbally aggressive, violent, and in so many spaces, not all, but in too many spaces that hold too much sway over our culture. Too violent, mean spirited, mean spirited.
And until we study war no more, we will always be in this situation.
And because we study war, that's what we do. You know, you do what you study, right, Dwight? Thank you for reminding me of that. You know, you do best what you do most, and we study war the most. What if we studied peace? I mean, what if we really, really, really sought to create a peaceful society and a just world, and a peaceful world and a just society? What if we did that? We wouldn't have the Crumblies who would laugh and say, son, you shouldn't get caught. You wouldn't have the Crumblies, James Crumbly, go out and buy his son a gun as a Christmas gift. And then the mother goes to a shooting range with her son the next day, knowing that this child's going to take this gun to school to deal with the people who bully him. Are you serious? And bully him, have you asked what your child might be doing? Because I know before my parents never said, oh, my baby would never. No, they want to know, what did you do? Okay? I think we've got to think about all of those things, Dwight. All of those things. And I'm hoping, I know that on the books, you can hold a parent accountable. But to me, there seemed to be something different about this particular case. And I'm hoping that we will now begin to hold these parents accountable. And not just that, I think we've got to look at what's happening with our white brothers and sisters, because there's something going on, with Kyle Rittenhouse's mother. Well, what happened here? What happened with Gregory McMichael? Why is it that you felt that your son had the right to hunt a human being down and kill him? Why? Well, what is that? I mean, we're all looking at these people and going, what are you all doing? What's on your minds? And not to bring you down, but to lift you up. Because you've got to see the error of your ways so that you can correct them. Because this is sick and crazy. It really is. It really, really is. And when you see the behavior of Ethan Crumbley's parents, Dwight, you see how he did what he did. But you know what the tragedy is, Dwight? No one looked at the parents of Dylan Klebold and his partner at Columbine, because his parents were white and affluent. They were from good families. Okay. But your children walked around in goth outfits, behaving in an antisocial way for a year before they walked into that high school and started shooting everybody up and then killed themselves. What? You sat around the dining room table with them, or at least you should have. I'm not going to even say, what did you miss? What's going on? What's in the water at your place? What's in the water in your home that breeds this kind of behavior and these kind of values? And I've got to wish Effie Rolfe a happy birthday. I missed your birthday this week, girl. Happy birthday. Everybody give Effie some love. Effie Rolfe, happy birthday. Gorgeous, gorgeous. My sister. Dwight, what's your closing thought? What should we be on the lookout for?
I think we should see which way this case goes. I think that this case will set a precedent that it will at least make many parents liable and more responsible, and they'll think twice about just giving their kids carte blanche and then hiding their hands while their kids go do something despicable. And they come back and say, well, I never knew, I never saw it come in, or how could he? That's not the child I know. Well, yes, it was. You just didn't pay any attention, or you just disregarded it, or you just felt like he felt, that he had the right to impose his will. And so now that there's dual responsibility there and dual accountability there, I think some parents should be more responsible, less inclined to run to Walmart and get their kids a AK-47 for their 13th birthday.
What's in the culture that drives that, Dwight?
The fact that it's a culture that stole somebody else's land and needed to be protected from the people whose land they stole. The fact that they had people enslaved. working at the for as servants with no freedom, no rights, and they went to bed every day afraid that the slaves would burn down the plantation. So they needed guns to protect the plantation and to beat down the slaves. The fact that it's a culture that's built on materialism, and so you needed guns to protect your property, protect your cattle, to protect your cows. The whole culture is built on take and be able to protect what you steal and what you've taken for the most part. Many parts of the culture is when you look at the country over the 400 years since we've been here, it's been really us taking one tribe's land after another. It's been European tribes who come over here and take other people's land, other tribes' land. And then you call it America, you put a flag on it, and you try to make it right. But you still have to protect what you stole.
So you think fear is driving this?
I think fear and greed. I think fear and greed. I think, we have driven it. I think that's what put it into the culture. That's what made it necessary for you to teach a kid how to shoot at 10, 11, and 12. I think that's what made it part of the mindset of the nation, is that we have to protect what's ours, and most of what's ours we took from somebody else. And so since we've been here, we came here, we're from Europe. Those who came here with flags and guns and declared themselves, the land, their land. This land is our land. California to New York Islands. You had to protect that. And that's the role that guns have played historically. And that's part of our mindset.
I think you're right. I think that you're right. You're always so brilliant and so insightful. Thank you for that. I tell you what, we're going to have to go the right way, not another way. My grandma Gertrude, God rest her soul, would always say there is one way. It's the right way. We're going to have to change things around, everybody. We're going to have to change things around and get things right, not make things better. Incrementalism is not going to work here. We've got to make things right. We've got to make things right. And I pray for the Crumbly family today. I pray that their hearts, minds, and that their hearts and minds will be changed and their souls will be healed. Because I don't believe in throwing anyone away, but I certainly think they need to be locked away so that they can learn a lesson. And I hope that that they will learn a lesson in prison. Although the prisons as they are presently constructed, Dwight, don't do that. They punish. They don't replenish. They don't heal. They don't make people better. And that's another flaw in the culture. So we're going to have to change things around. We have to make things right. So, love you, Dwight McKee. Thank you so much. And everyone, give Postmate some love. He is in the midst of, he's about to go into finals. Oh, I remember that back in the day, the beginning of December. But once you get through these finals, Postmate, you're going to be so happy. You're going to have energy that you don't think that you have right now. It's so wonderful. I love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you to all of my guests, Shelley Stanley, who's on her way to the courtroom to look at the Jussie Smollett case and bring us some more information tomorrow. I cannot wait to hear what she observes and what she reports to us tomorrow. And, of course, attorney C.K. Hoffler, brilliant legal eagle of ours. Catch her on Court TV. She's been all over the television, and rightly so. Dwight McKee, brilliant social scientist. We're always so grateful to have him. And, of course, the teaching pastor of the Salem Baptist Church, the House of Hope, Reverend Stephen Thurston. Dr. Deborah Furholden, doing so well. God is restoring her health as she's had a bout with COVID-19, but because she has had different layers of support, she said she can't really pinpoint what has mitigated the severity of this virus for her, but she is vaccinated. She eats well, she exercises, and she really does take care of herself. But she was at a wedding. Look, we can't live our lives in a box and in isolation, everybody. So, I talked to her and I said, you can't blame yourself because it's out here. But since we're going to be out here and it's out here, what we need to do is protect ourselves so that should we encounter COVID, should we catch it, we can survive it. It's very survivable, everybody. So I love you. I can't wait to be with you tomorrow. I've been so blessed to have been with you today on the Santita Jackson Show. On behalf of Clothesman and I'm out of here. God bless you. See you tomorrow.